Seasands podcast is back. Oyston's out.
It's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Hello out there, all you Seasiders fans. Not quite mastered the equipment. We're back, listeners. We are back. First time in a year, over a year. I've got the band back together. Matt's back.
Hello, I am.
Matt Smith. Everybody, do you remember who he is? Matt Smith. From many moons ago, the original crew. Good to see you. Good to have you back, Matt.
Good to be back. Never thought it would happen.
Yeah.
It's like the Stone Roses. Never thought it would happen, but we're back together.
We need the money, so we're back together. And also, Nick's here as well.
Good evening, John. It's great to be back.
It's been a while. Let me just turn this loop off. That's why it continued going. Right, we're on a test stream on YouTube. Just the select few are privy to that this evening. So if that goes well, we'll be doing that in future episodes. But firstly, I just want to share something with the two of you. Get the top off. Right, there we go. That was tough. We've got a bit of celebrating.
Beginning to wonder about this. Oh,
It's there.
oh
There you go. One for you, Nick. One for you, Matt.
Yes. Cheers, everybody.
Well, drinking to Oyston is out.
At long last.
Never thought I'd say those words.
No.
Nick, how do you feel?
Just relieved as much as anything, and looking forward to having a normally run football club again. Looking at the league table, looking at the fixture list, all of the things that we've not really bothered doing for the past few years. And the amount of people who come up to me at work as well who've, are Laps fans and not been for ages. And when can we get tickets? When can we go back? So hopefully it should be a sellout. Well, it should be a sellout. I don't know if it will be, but it should be.
There'll be someone that's not going to that game. Me.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably, I'm on holiday. I can't believe it.
This is the problem, though. We made plans, as you do, thinking that we'd never go back. Well, certainly not this season anyway, in my instance. So I think there's 6 home games left. I think I'm away for 50% of them. So It's just prior commitments and all the rest of it. But hey, fortunately, we're going back, and whether it's the 9th of March,
so,
although some of us have already been back, haven't we, John?
No, they haven't. No.
Mushroom.
I just nipped. I had a quick look through the gates last weekend.
Did you?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Guess I couldn't go. Guess I can't go this weekend.
Just couldn't contain yourself.
Nope. It was a load of shite, though. Wish I hadn't gone there.
Well, that's something to look forward to.
I'm not going again. Get Oyston back. Anyway, so I put as the first topic of conversation, bit of a light-hearted intro. So what we've been up to on Saturdays for the past few seasons. Anything momentous moments in our lives since we last sort of went properly. I think I've been made redundant. I've had 2 or 3 separate jobs since then. Nick, you just grinding it out at Guardian or wherever it is you used to
I'm what we'll call these days, yeah.
You've had a couple of new jobs, haven't you?
Yeah. I've had
Former BST treasurer as well.
That's
actually.
right. Yeah. It seems an awful long time ago now,
it?
but I was, obviously glad to play my little part, and it's just, but we'll talk about BST in a bit, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, it's been a weird sort of. It seems like forever. Obviously we had the World Cup in summer, which sort of got us all back into football again.
Yeah,
really.
it did actually, yeah.
And I thought that was great. And it was a bit of an education for me personally, because VAR I finally got it. I thought it was Valeria against rapists when I first saw it, but I'm glad to see it's something a little less.
Good analogy.
A little less serious. But yeah, so it's, that sort of whetted the appetite, but you just fill your weekends with, God, anything else, quite frankly. And even like I was getting bored of Jeff Stelling at one point, which isn't good. But
this whole situation's kind of put me off football full stop. The whole Oyston Blackpool thing.
Yeah,
I found myself just not bothered about it anymore.
No, it used to be like, match of the day, every Sky game, and you kind of start to think, I can take it or leave it.
Definitely.
I used to record match of the day and always watch the highlights. And I've stopped doing that. And I've even just stopped watching it even when it's on. Cause it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, you do. And, there's a part of me thinking that I just hate everything football because no help off the FA, no help off the EFL and all this sort of stuff that's been going on. But, like, it just feels like liberation has happened. So I feel so much more energized and so much more looking forward to this little snippet of a season left, regardless of what happens. And then just almost can't wait for next season to start.
It's like a big part of your life back, isn't it? Almost like you've been reborn in a way.
And all the kind of, like I say, all the interest comes flooding back, doesn't it? It's kind of, it's been paused, hasn't it? And then when the news came through that it was the receiver being appointed, you think, right, that's absolutely momentous, and we can hopefully go back.
That's it. I mean, it's been a long, drawn-out legal battle. And it was mentioned at the meeting on Saturday, you get more sort of used to talking legal speak and understanding things that go on in a courtroom than you do on 100 yards of grass. So it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like the biggest thread on View from the Towers, the courtroom threads rather than any of the match day threads, because that's what everyone's interested in. And I wondered, because there's been a lot of, we've been back at court a few times, and each time people are thinking, this could be it, this could be it. And then each time it isn't, you kind of think, here we go, another 6 months.
Do you remember how long it was since we were in the Thatched celebrating over we had a couple of drinks, didn't we? We took the recorder
months ago
when the news, the judgment came through, the High Court judgment. We were celebrating, thinking, yes, we're back in a few weeks. And a year and a half later.
I suppose it just proves what a long drawn out affair these things can be, whether it be this scenario or anything else. It just does take time, but how we've managed to keep going and keep our sanity and keep a remote interest in football despite what we've just said. But like I say, it's like the shackles are off and we're ready to. God, I'll put a pair of boots on if they ask me to this weekend. It's fantastic. So can't wait.
Should we just kick off by saying almighty thanks and praise to His Royal Highness, His Royal Judgeness, Marcus Smith, peace be upon him. Yes. I love the message boards, the way they always put PBUH after his name, like he's some sort of deity.
God, well, he's played a blinder. I know he can only...
Let's do this in football terms, how he's playing.
Rule on points of law, but, he's a football fan, and you wonder whether in the back of his mind it was, he's thinking...
Is he an Arsenal fan?
Yeah.
He's a box-to-box judge, isn't he?
He
always gives 100%.
He played a blinder with the amount that was awarded, and then finally, the receiver being appointed. And I think you could tell from looking at the thread that he still had that concern of with putting the receiver in. I don't want to damage the football club, and it was kind of probably in two minds as to what to do.
I mean, ultimately, him being a football fan has helped in inverted commas because. He just gets it a little bit more than probably, dare I say, the next person who might be in his position.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it helps us massively in that regard. Obviously, every decision has gone, the football club Bellicon's way, if you will, and the fans' ways. So like you say, all hail. Anybody that's got M. Smith in the name is obviously a genius.
Oh, great guy. I think while we're on the thanks tip, it's also, I'm sure they're listening, but other Clifford Chance
legends,
barristers. I know Per Donkey did some great caricatures. The one that stuck in my mind was the one when he did it as a wrestling match with all the Clifford Chance lawyers, like with in a headlock and all sort of.
Yeah, it's that sort of stuff that's sort of kept you going. Rob Purdy and those guys, and obviously everyone involved with, keeping us up to date. Us laymen's in terms of the legal stuff and helping us understand it in as easy speak as possible. And everybody, it's sort of, we all know what a good set of supporters we are, majority wise, should I say. And this last few years has just proven that, and everyone has played the small part, like I say at the beginning. Really, so great.
Let's just tip our hats to everyone in the committee at BST. Really, I know there's well, we know, Matt, don't we? There's a hell of a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. The
Just a
unsung
bit.
heroes, like Kev went through a hell of an amount of work, didn't he? Francis doing all the membership.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah.
You know,
Everyone else,
I could list a dozen,
Andy,
list a dozen names and more.
Christine.
But yeah, absolutely, everybody's played the part, and you know what people don't see is just how much time it consumes.
We know, don't we?
Yeah.
You more so than me. I mean,
You know,
I did a bit, but
and it's for me personally, it was
hard work.
It was hard work in inverted commas, hard work, but you always had that sort of chink of light about what the end game was, and I couldn't be happier for those that have got us where we are now. Really, been fantastic.
Yeah. So thanks to everyone involved in BST. I think I've seen a Blackpool fan who's followed the Not Up Anymore campaign. It has ultimately worked in the end. I think Tim said at the last meeting, I wasn't there, but I've watched the stream, and he said it did have a big bearing on what the judge said. So yeah, it all had an effect. Right, just slipping back to the notes now. Was it last week? His Highness Judge Marcus Smith ordered a receiver take charge of the football club and its related assets. And flog them off in order to pay the £20 million plus owed to Valerie Bellicon. So this was last week, wasn't it? Was it announced last week? Was it the week before?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it took a while for the court-appointed receiver to be brought in. This chap called Paul Cooper, and he's come in on, was it Monday this week?
I think he was in probably Wednesday.
Yeah, it's last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's just this week that he's gone on and done the big deed of changing the board.
Yeah, which was always going to happen, wasn't it? I don't think for a minute he was going to let any of the existing board hang around. But again, it's great to see, and it feels like it's another step towards getting the club back. And he seems to have been quite honest and open from what we can see so far. It's not a closed shop. He's done a few interviews, told us as much as he can as to what's going to happen and what the process is. And looking at the calibre of people he's brought in, it looks like we're in safe hands for the time being. And obviously, friend of the podcast, Sir Tom Folding, on the board as well. Congratulations to Tim.
I mean, just joking aside, I don't think anyone deserves this more than Tim, and I can't think of anyone more worthy and to represent our views than Tim.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just been there all the time, hasn't he? Trying to demystify things for people.
But I mean, obviously, from his personal point of view, he's been through a hell of a lot, obviously, and for him to carry on as well is just sort of testament to his fine, upstanding sort of moral stature, really.
But Tim, if you get anything wrong, you'll be getting a load of this.
Southend, like 3-0 down. Storm the West, director's box.
Too busy quaffing his champers, no doubt.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, don't forget your mates, Tim.
Choking on his prawn sandwich.
We should get some badges done. What's the badge guy? Dave Hall. Yeah, get some. There's only one Tom Folding with his face in the middle.
Obviously, with like 5 different clubs on the scarf.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I think that's what got him on the board. His scarf and badge collection. Got this one. No, joking aside, I think I speak for everyone when we say, "Can you get us free tickets?"
And if you don't, you're never coming on here ever again. I think he's obviously a bit sworn to silence at the moment.
Yeah. I'm sure he has got a lot on his plate at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the other thing to remember. Where I think we need to show a bit of patience. Obviously, we're all desperate to go back, and when can we buy tickets? And it's been a shell of a football club for a long time. They probably haven't got full staff yet.
No.
And there's this massive demand for tickets. There's a lot to be sorted out because it's just been left to rot. So I think we need to bear that in mind and just, give them time to sort these things out.
And I think what you said about the receiver being in Mr. Cooper and obviously the board and all the rest of it and talking the last few days, there's been more transparency out of that football club than there has been in 30 years.
Yeah.
And if that itself is just the way forward, then you're onto a winner off the pitch anyway.
Well, you look at the club statement.
Well, that nicely segues onto our next talking point. We'll go on there. Yeah,
yeah. I saw the thread pop up saying club statement, and I just thought,
you normally just roll
here
your
we
eye.
go. What's he managed to put out? What North Korean propaganda is?
Hack the website.
The Americans
Nasty
are
Mr.
burning
Bellicon
in
and the judge, and in 1987 I saved the club. And I thought I'm going to end up booting my laptop here. But it wasn't. It was from the new board, and my God, what a difference!
No.
It just, again, it brings a tear to your eye.
Yeah, it's positive news all the time. We're just not used
It
to
kind
it.
of short-circuited your brain when you saw it, didn't you, from
yeah.
the official Blackpool FC Twitter feed.
Yeah, you're thinking,
Club statement.
what's going on?
So I clicked through to it. I think it came through just before we came on air, really, didn't it, about tea time. It said, Blackpool Football Club is delighted to officially welcome Ben Hatton, who is the Executive Managing Director, Ian Curry, Non-Exec Director, and our very own Mr. Tom Folding, Non-Executive Director, carrying out an observational role to its new board. The trio, along with Michael Bolingbroke, hope he doesn't make us go broke, who will act as consultants to the board and have been appointed. I'll get this right. I've done this for a while. By Receiver Paul Cooper in a major change to structure and day-to-day operations at Bloomfield Road. These appointments are an exciting development and emphasise why everybody must now come together for the benefit of the club, the town, and the community. With effect, all club stadium bans under previous management have been revoked, allowing supporters, bar those subject to FA banning orders, to return to Bloomfield Road and support the team. A further announcement will be released for tickets, blah, 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 blah. I mean, what a difference. And it ends with up the mighty pool. What a difference.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's great for, like, say, for those fans who've been banned, that there's no messing about. It's a clean slate. You're back in, and, we can move forward. Yeah, just completely different to what you normally get from the football club.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like you say, it's the clean slate, move on, positive. You can sense that it's coming from inside the club as well, let alone the fans outside. It's just sounds almost too good to be true this last few days, doesn't it? The fact that they've got, like Nick said, we've got experienced people running the show for the time being. We've got past experience and potentially future experience in football club ownership, and their track records are good. And God willing, we'll get somebody to take us forward. And it's never going to be the case for us with better the devil, is it? Crying out loud.
So are these guys, are they kind of employed then by the receiver? Are they just classed as employees who are like experienced at running football club?
I'd assume so, because I think they've all done similar things at other clubs, haven't they? In those sorts of positions.
Yeah.
It's some very big clubs as well.
This Ben, sorry, Matt, go on.
I was going to say, I think on Saturday, Tim touched on it, that there's basically a one of the better expression, a pot of money that's to sort of help in terms of getting the right people in to run the football club during this, however long this period is of.
Where's this pot come from?
Well, I think this is part of this, the legal sort of what's owed essentially, because Oyston owes Bellicon X amount of money plus all the costs to get. I
read somewhere that Bellicon was.
Well, he's funding the day. He said he's funding the day today. So
well.
Anyway, obviously Tim's not here, but either way, he's funded directly or indirectly because of the legal sort of success that's happened. And they're obviously high caliber people. They're not just with respect, somebody who's done a few years at Sunday League level or anything like that.
Not some backstreet solicitor from South Shore.
Well,
he works
on the main road.
Only joking, Tim. These are the guys. Ben Hatton. Ben has extensive football executive experience, having worked at Man United for 10 years. Blimey. As director of commercial enterprises, where turnover increased from 67 million to 301 in his time. And he's no mug, is he?
No, I say, and we're in good hands for the time being.
The other guy, Ian Curry, he's a local chap, isn't he? Ian is a director of Senka Park Partners, an independent investment management and corporate advisory business. He has executive business and football experience, having been a non-exec director at Bolton for 6 years. And that's not exactly a shining light is about to run a club. Ian has a long affiliation with Blackpool, as well as being born in Fleetwood. You know, he's a codhead. And I've been a season ticket holder.
Going off him, aren't you?
Stinks of fish. His father-in-law, Gavin Steele, was a non-executive director at the club a number of years ago. I remember that name, do you?
Yeah.
And finally, Mr. Tim Fielding. Tim is an executive director at BBE Law Executive, don't forget that, as well as being a lifelong fan who serves as the chairman of Blackpool Sports Trust. He will represent all fans in an observational role to ensure full transparency of the board's decision making. He's going to be like a kind of referee, isn't he?
Well, I think it's just that link, isn't it, between the board and the fans, and again, it should help with communication, getting messages out there, and keeping people up to date with what's going on. Because obviously, there's going to be a period now where they've got to start looking through the finances, which is a bit of a tangled web, and then they're going to have to start speaking to all the interested parties, which I think there's around 20. So they're probably in the process of sorting through that, and there'll be some who they probably rule out straight away, and then sit down and talk with your serious bidders, and work out who it's going to be who eventually buys the football club.
Yeah, I think one thing that is obviously why Tim's there, I guess, as well as being the observation, I'm sure he's got a heavy part to play in the communication side of thing, which to us fans is key, because we've been in the dark for so long.
I mean, what a difference it's going to make.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, like I say, you just mentioned a couple of tweets and a statement off the website, and you would anticipate that, 24, 48 hours time, there'll be announcements about tickets, mini season tickets, maybe even next year's season tickets, and so on and so forth. But it's all this stuff that we need transparency on and good communication on. And it's not like stuff that we don't know, but, it's not been happening before, has it? So things are on a nice upward curve, aren't they?
I mean, the administrator, is it the administrator? Is he the guy that's put he is the guy that's put these people in place, isn't
the
he?
receiver? Yeah.
The receiver, sorry, yeah. I mean, it's great for him to have the knowledge of football and to add someone like Tim and these people to the club. Sorry, to the board. He could have just got business people, I suppose, couldn't he? And they didn't need to involve the fans. So he's obviously a decent guy.
Yeah, I know he's met with Tim and BST and all the rest of it, and from what I gather, it was obviously a case of try and keep us involved as much as possible, and we'll be your link between yourself and the fans, and they obviously see that themselves as a positive move. And all power to their elbows in terms of doing that, really.
Final guy, Michael Bolingbroke. Michael is the former chief exec of Inter Milan. Blimey! And chief operating officer at Man United for 7 years from 2000. Chief operating officer at Man United for 7 years. He's one of the most highly regarded execs in the football industry, and has a proven track record of transformational development at all clubs he has worked for. He's going to have his bloody work cut out.
Yeah. They're earning every penny, won't they? Yeah.
But I think you've now got a willing fan base. We want to come back. People are going to want to spend money in the club shop again. That's probably, the shelves are bare there, I would imagine. That there is a lot to sort out in a relatively short space of time.
You're going to laugh at this. When I looked through the window with the Seaside's bar the other day, do you know what I saw in that kind of back room where the little kids bit used to be? I saw a discarded, how do you describe, when you've broken your leg and you have like sort of a fake plastic leg it's not a cast, but it's like an aid that keeps you walking.
Like the big boot thing?
Yeah, like a huge boot.
Yeah.
I just saw one of them just thrown on the middle of the floor. I was like, if that's not indicative of how the club was run, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Surprised it just wasn't a big sticking plaster, because that's what it's been covered with over the last few years, isn't it?
But yeah, finally, Ben Hutton, I'm going to be to the board, right? We have done that, haven't we? So who's this guy? He's done the transformation work, right? So that's it with the new board coming in. Obviously, Natalie and Owen are gone. I mean, what a great moment that was to read that Owen Oyston has been removed from the board of Blackpool Football Club.
Yeah, and I say that's the last we see of him, barring
him winning the Euro.
Well, this is it. There is a very, very, very tiny note of caution in that, in theory, somehow he can come up with this money. But like you say, I think short of actually winning the Euro Millions, I'm not sure he could, because you look at it reasonably and think, well, he's not done it in the last 15 months. He borrowed, was it against the Travelodge, for the first tranche of payment? So you're thinking, why do that if the money's there? And if the money is there,
money's there if we need it.
He should have come up with it by now. So you'd like to think that's the end of it.
It makes no sense if all of a sudden he was to pull the rabbit out of the hat, does it? Because it cost him, was it $5,000 a week? Month,
and imagine trying to
it's an eye-watering
interest, isn't it?
And even trying to loan it now, he's not got the same assets to borrow against.
And age isn't in his favour.
No,
either.
so I don't think you'd find anyone on the planet who'd be willing to do that.
Plus, also, he'd fail the EFL. I mean, for what it's worth, the fit and proper persons test. Obviously, the EFL will come on to them shortly. He'd pass the he'd fail the test, and he couldn't be involved in the football club. So that's another sort of blocker to him. It doesn't bear thinking about worth. But what did Lenny John Rose call it on Made in Lancashire? He said it'd be a romantic
ending.
A romantic ending if he pulled that money out of the bag.
Yeah. Well,
less
said about that, the better, I think.
So moving on to the EFL, I think we can't not talk about the 12-point deduction that's looming over our heads for an insolvency event. Sean Harvey came out, didn't he, and said it's not necessarily the case.
No, I mean, they've not done us any favours up to now, so I'm not.
They've actually gone out of the way to make everything as difficult as possible.
It would seem that way, yeah. It just feels a bit toothless, and nobody wants to take ownership. And that's not our remit. Similar to the, like Matt said before, to the FA. And normally these deductions come about because a football club, it's been reckless spending,
overspending,
credit card football, and then you pay the price when you've got these people on $80,000 a week for 4-year contracts, and you get relegated after a season.
It's like of Pompey and Leeds, isn't it, when they went stupid?
Yeah, it's like when Bradford had Benito Carbonian on $40,000 a week in the mid-90s.
And Di Canio, they had Di Canio, didn't they? Did they have
Bradford?
Chef Wednesday did.
Chef Wednesday, right. Yeah. Sorry.
But
these Yorkshire clubs, they all merge into one.
But it's been the opposite for us. The money has been taken out. It's not been spent and beyond on football. So it would be a bit of a kick in the teeth.
If anything, we should give us 12 points.
Put us back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I mean, I'm just glad they're gone. And if we ended up, I think something has to happen by the 20-something of March. I think it is.
Yes, towards
or else it will carry into next season.
20th of March. After meeting with various supporters groups of the club on 20th of March, I stated that our objective was to create some stability around the club. Blah blah blah.
I think from my perspective, the sort of sound bites I'm getting from the AFL, and even Sean, I know he's going to leave in the next few weeks or whatever, but it's the first time I sort of felt quite positive about what they've said, in that they haven't said we're going to throw the book at you sort of thing. They've been quite coy with that statement and at their discretion and all that sort of stuff. And I know they can be perceived to be just sort of towing their party line in what they're saying and not committing to anything. But I'm sort of reading that as a bit of a positive, really. So I think the circumstance, if they did put 12 points or something against us, it'd be absolute uproar.
Is there not a vote? Is it?
It goes to the board. It goes to all the football league clubs,
which is when you wonder whether people could be,
So you're the chairman of Oxford. You see one place between yourself and relegation. You've got the option to drag another club down into the mire.
Yeah.
What would you vote? If you had any sort of conscience,
it depends on how many, and there's probably not so many football league chairmen have got moral compasses in this regard.
Apart from Andy Holt, maybe the Accrington chairman.
Well, and you'd like to think if they were being objective about it and just looking at it on face value, that should we be deducted 12 points because of what the Oystons have done, you'd say never. But if they're looking at the league table with however many games to go,
and they're looking at their balance sheet,
it might be a different decision.
So is it actually the club chairman that decide, or is it a combination of that and the board of the EFL?
I think the club chairman have a vote, but ultimately I think the discretion is still with the EFL board themselves. I think they can still, make an executive decision, so to speak, on it. But like I said, I'm touching a little bit of wood here, but I feel quite confident about that.
MDF, actually.
MDF, yeah, with a Formica. So Yeah, I still feel quite confident about it. So I think, given what else is sort of happening, and I know I don't know if you can get the league tables up, but I know it drags us down, but it doesn't like put us bottom, does it? Obviously,
No.
and I think this, from what I've heard about the club, because obviously I've not seen them, they're good enough to get whatever points are needed to stay up anyway. So I'm confident either way, but obviously it'd be a lot nicer if they just said, let's not put 12 points taken away from you.
So we're currently on 48 points. Bristol Rovers are the last team in the relegation zone. They're on 34. So even if it did happen, we're still 2 points clear. Yeah, you'd like to think we've got enough to get out of it, even if they put us down there. So if it was to happen, when would you rather take this deduction, this season, or I'd rather have it now?
Yeah, I think so, because I think, if we'd have beaten Oxford on Saturday, you're not too far away from the playoffs, but I think I'd probably take it now. We'll have enough to stay up, and it's a fresh start for next season.
Yeah, I think we've got maybe 4 games before that 20th of March.
There's only 13 games left in this season. Can you believe that? That's another thing. Seasons have just been going like that, haven't they? The blink of an eye.
Yeah.
How many games have you actually been to over the last 4.5 years? Obviously away, not home.
I went to, where have I been? Carlisle, left at half time. Bury, first time.
Accrington away.
Left after half an hour.
Yeah, I think everyone did.
I'm not sure I've done.
I've been to Fleetwood away.
We went to Accrington, didn't we? We stayed when we got beat 2-1.
So
you can count on one hand though, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've done 3, maybe 4. But yeah.
They were so depressing.
Morecambe. No, I'll tell you what, I've been to 2 and 2 halves.
Yeah.
That's what I've been to, yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
That's like your pre-match drinks, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
But just going back to the EFL, what the final closing statement he said was, it's not mandatory that the 12-point sanction must be applied, but the circumstances of the appointment of the receiver need to be fully considered and the appropriate decision taken in accordance with the regulations. So to me, I don't know, it's neither here nor there, that, isn't it? You can read
in the balance, maybe.
You can read something into it either way. Just leading on from that, Sean Harvey's obviously, it was announced he's going to leave the EFL at the end of the season. Hopefully that's the beginning of a reform, a badly needed reform at that.
Well. Maybe there's been a little, push in his back, perhaps. Who knows? Maybe because of all the circumstances surrounding our own club. Who knows? But
maybe that protest outside the offices has embarrassed them and sort of forced them into action.
I mean, they obviously need an overhaul as much as Blackpool Football Clubs needed an overhaul, hasn't it? So maybe with a catalyst for that as well, perhaps.
Yeah. Speaking of overhauls, the team, does it need overhauling? Obviously, we're not really.
Well, we'll probably know more after a couple of home games. I think it's hard to comment because, if I'm honest, they could walk in this room now and I wouldn't really know who any of them were.
I passed several of them.
Nathan Alfonso.
Well,
he just clap around the room, wouldn't he?
But I mean, I think they've done, and I think Gary Bowyer and subsequently Terry McPhillips, they've done a fantastic job, and I think the team have performed really well, considering it must be a bit soul destroying playing in front of, I know the crowd's given us whatever, but 1,500 people.
Some of the actual crowds must have been about 900 in the midwinter game.
It'll be interesting to see how they do actually with a decent crowd on at home, because for some of them it'll be the first time it's happened. So
it'll be interesting to see how they react, and you'd like to think that it'll be they'd feed off the positivity that's obviously going to be there, and that'll help get the points that even if we get 12 points taken off us, that'll help them.
I think from what the bits I've seen and read, we seem well organised. I think defensively we had the best clean sheet record
in the division,
in all 4 divisions, certainly up until the Oxford game. So we're obviously well organised, hard to beat, solid defensively, but then probably not particularly spectacular up front. We don't go out and win many 5-0, but so maybe we need a goal scorer. But this division, I don't think you need that much.
No, and the funny thing is, if you were, imagine this is I suppose it's the start of a season to many extent. But if you basically want to start a team again, you start at the back anyway. You get a good, decent back four and a keeper and a solid midfield, and then you get. So maybe if things go well for us and we stay up and we don't have any sort of other upheavals over the summer, and if there's any sort of investment, obviously at League One level, it doesn't have to be a lot, quite frankly. But if there's a decent amount of investment, you never know. A couple of decent strikers or forward-thinking players, and we could be supporting a half-decent side again.
I mean, we've got perhaps Gary Bowyer to thank for that. The solid spine and the defence, and he's quite a defence-minded manager, isn't he? And he did a great job, and obviously Terry McPhillips.
I suppose that they know, obviously, through their experience, they know what shoestring budget they've been given, and they know what's needed to not lose games, and that's probably where we're at the moment. And obviously, we've won quite a few, so therefore, obviously, we're 8-9 in the league or whatever. But
that's the Paul Ince school of football, isn't it? That man that can take Man United to European glory.
Yeah, exactly. So it will be interesting to see. I mean, I'm going to Accrington on Tuesday, and then obviously it's the Southend game on the Saturday. And those two games I'll be paying a lot more attention than obviously I have done in the 2.5 games that I watched previously over the last couple of years, and I'll be able to actually concentrate on what's going on the field a little bit more and
care, I suppose. You do lose that connection. I mean,
Definitely.
Remember when we went to Accrington and 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go, and they equalise and then get a 93rd minute dodgy goal, and
we just shrugged our shoulders, didn't
we? You're numb to it. You don't celebrate when we win, and you don't get too down.
I mean,
we
scored towards the end of that game anyway to go 1-up, didn't we? Well, was it quite late?
I know we were 1-up
because when we scored to go 1-up, me and you looked at each other. We just went whatever.
Yeah. Didn't really celebrate.
No, we didn't celebrate. Weren't gutted when they equalised.
So obviously all of that, we score at Accrington on Tuesday night. Everyone will be going mental because you feel like you've got hope again.
And I'm missing that one as well. I don't believe it. 1 week holiday I'm having of the year, missing it all.
Part-timer.
Unbelievable. All right. So we've gone about the team.
What can I?
Yeah.
Just going back to obviously the receivers.
No. Where's the mute button?
Because obviously we don't know who we're going to get next, and there's a lot of interested parties, isn't there? Obviously, Bellicon being one of them, which probably would be our preference because we've been there before and we know what the guy's about. He's prepared to put money in, but it will be interesting to see because ultimately, like the receiver said, it's
whoever's got the deepest
it's the
pocket.
highest bidder. Yeah. And I don't think for a minute we're going to go from have anything like we had with the Oystons, but there are other clubs who've had owner after owner, and it's not gone well.
The likes of Sisu at Coventry, are kind of the worst possible example.
You just hope that we get the days of the Jack Walkers of this world are long gone. It's whoever buys the club. We understand it's a business, but you hope there's that balance of they understand that it's not just there to be made money out of. And I have no problem if they put some in and you buy a player and you sell them in a few years and they take a bit of that and put a bit back in, which I think is the way to do it. And you just hope we get people who understand that and it isn't just.
I think whoever does come in, they'll be obviously more than acutely aware of what's been going on at the football club, and they surely will see what potential there is at the football club and want to run it properly and have, like you say, all the sort of best interests at heart and all the rest of it. And maybe I'm being a bit romantic here, but that's at least obviously what we want. You mentioned Bellicon, and he still has this I'm a minority shareholder side to his business. So there's going to be somebody coming in with 51% presumably or whatever. So it will be interesting to see what happens. And you just have to. You sort of have to keep fingers crossed in a way, but
no one will be as bad as them.
Well,
surely,
of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't.
I mean, even if someone was if someone the heart was in the right place and we got relegated, but if they were running the club the right way, I wouldn't be obviously be gutted if we went down. But
the king of Saudi Arabia was trying to buy Man United the other week, wasn't he? We can get a bargain just 20 miles down the road.
Chops the manager's heads off if we get relegated. Steal a pie, you lose an hand. Well, better not go to the Saudi consulate.
Moving on.
That's your holiday to Riyadh cancelled, yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who it is, but hopefully it's,
I mean, that Paul Stewart consortium,
that's what I mean.
He's pulled out of
that.
And
I
didn't like the look of that.
No, and that's what I'm thinking. There's people out there who might just purely be looking at it as a quick flip, if you like, and make a couple of million quid out of it, and that's what we don't want.
I think the receiver is, he's a smart guy. I know he says about the highest bidder and all the rest of it, but I still think somewhere I've read somewhere in the sort of the small print, if you will, that there is a little bit of discretion there as well. It's not just a case of highest bidder wins.
No, it's not the only factor.
No, it's not the only factor. And obviously they've got to look at the football club as the community asset that it is, as everything else that it hasn't been over the past 5-10 years, whatever. And you just hope that all you can do is hope, really, isn't it? That it's the right people.
Just look at the Pilly model, what he's done at Fleetwood. If we had a facility like they had, it'd be a big money-making opportunity for any good businessman out there.
So many missed opportunities.
My dad always used to say, he said, Blackpool is a unique opportunity for an owner because of the vast number of away fans that reasonably big size clubs, but even the smaller clubs bring decent followings.
Yeah.
Because, we've all said the Blackpool away is the first game a lot of teams fans look for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to capitalise on that, you can be looking at 6,000-7,000 away fans. But some look at Sunderland, was it 8,500 they brought?
Yeah, obviously you'd like to think that would be not able to fill 7,500 in the away ground in the next couple of weeks.
Fans.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. You can get 1,500, 2,000 quite comfortably, I'm sure, down, whether it be half the north or down the east or whatever. But like I say, it's the other, hopefully 6,000 to 10,000 Blackpool fans now that are going to fill the ground as well, and getting the right owner, and he'll keep that going for forever, basically.
Right. So let's go on to the actual Southend game itself. There's a lot of talk about what should happen before the game, be it a march, some sort of symbolic gesture beforehand. What would be your preference be, Nick, for that? Scrunching his face out there. I know what he's going to say.
To the pub. Well, I think we've had our fair share of marches, and I think at the time we did them, it was the right thing to do. I think people should just do whatever they want to do. Ultimately,
do you remember the coffin? Do you remember the coffin march?
Yeah,
but it pissed it down.
It always rained on them marches. But I think let's just go and enjoy the game. Obviously, we're still waiting for the receiver to confirm that they've got control of the accounts and people can buy tickets, etc., which hopefully should happen in the next day or two. If people want to have a march, fine. If they want to go and have a drink, fine. If they want to get in the ground an hour early and just be glad to be there, that's fine. I think it's just do what you want to do, what your individual preference is.
I think there should be some sort of speech outside the West Stand, like with BST, perhaps Christine addressing the crowd, like at the end of protest.
I'm not so sure. I know where you're coming from.
I don't know. I think it'd be good. I think it'd be a good gesture. The fact we've been stood shouting at that West Stand on these protests so many times, and it just petered out at the end. It'd be great if we could sort of right and everybody in
for the first time in obviously a long time, 4.5 years or whatever. You can actually do that inside the ground. So you can have a captive audience if you wanted to do something on the pitch 15 minutes before kick-off or whatever.
Or half-time or...
Yeah, anything like that. But I don't know. I'd rather just get back to almost a bit of normality in a way.
Yeah, see your mates in the pub. And,
miserable bastards. Come on, you want a big party?
I think the thing is, I think a lot of things will change, possibly pre-match and all the rest of it as time goes on, in terms of making it a better experience, to use a buzzword that's always going on these days. But that's for maybe next season. I think this year it's just a matter of getting your bum back in the ground and seeing familiar faces again. I mean, the meeting that we went to on Saturday at the De Vere, there was 400 people in the room or whatever, and there's 400 people I haven't seen for a long time. And it was good to shake a few hands.
Look at us in this room. When was the last time? I haven't seen Matt for about a year. Maybe I've seen you at a protest, but that's been about it. Not seen anyone socially.
And this comes back to the fact that, you just do other things. We've all got, wives, girlfriends, families.
We all live in disparate areas of the Foul Coast as well, so it's hard to...
Yeah, we're 45 minutes apart from each other in a way. So it's not easy just to rock up or whatever, but we know where we are at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon or 7:45 on a Tuesday or whatever, so...
I mean, that's the thing, that everything that we've lost over the last 4 years, isn't it? I mean, it's a big thing, really. Think about it. It's family, it's friends, it's people getting together, and it was your social calendar almost.
Yeah, it was it's like your church on a Saturday. Going to the football, and some people you only see them through football, and so you only see them at protests once every 6, 8, 12 months or whatever, and you do lose that side of things. So. That's why I think on the Southend game, it's just, go and enjoy yourself with your mates and catch up again.
I'm so glad we don't have to do any more protests. They were really kind of tiresome towards the end, I found.
I think the problem was, I think everyone knew that it wasn't our protest, as much as they had an effect, obviously, but the real action was obviously in courtrooms and all that sort of
mean,
so
you come up with all this pent up aggression and fury, and you can't vent anywhere.
No,
can you?
and I think when you stood outside the West and
shouting.
for the first few, they were there at the windows, and and then after that they weren't even there, and you kind of
just shouting at a building.
You get to the ground, and it's like, let's go for a pint.
Yeah,
anyone fancy a pint? Because it's like we've done our bit.
What was your favourite protest? I know what mine was. Got it in my head.
Go on.
Do you want me to go? It was the one at the end of the season when we played Charlton, when a bed of the Charlton owner and Carl Oyston dressed with his shotgun on a bed, and they both got set on fire.
Yeah,
it's like a Chinese Buddhist monks, wasn't it? Like,
yeah,
that was brilliant.
I like the I don't know which one it was, but it set off from outside the Blue Room or whatever it's called these days, Stanley.
Oh, the march, yeah.
And that went through the town.
I missed that one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And that was good because it was just the numbers and the weather was actually good.
Cut halfway through that.
And it was the fact that, people were sort of literally standing and staring and thinking, what the hell's going on here? And there's, 2,000 or 3,000 people walking through the town centre and on the prom and all the rest of it. So, as far as my favourite protest goes, then that's it. Yeah. Thanks.
Do you remember you, Matt, on the first one, on the coffee one? I think it was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Remember you saying, I'm fulfilling a life goal here in that taking part in a protest march in my life.
Well, this is it, because, of our, I know we're not spring chickens, quite frankly, but our generation weren't part of Toxteth or any sort of, miners or anything like that. So we missed that sort of generation of stuff.
But I mean, when you said that, it was probably in a jokey manner, as if like, this will be the first and only one. Who knew how long it'd all drag on for?
Yeah. But it goes back to, sticking together and, the common goal and all that sort of carry on, doesn't it? And
so
got there in the end.
The Southend game, where are you going to sit?
I think Andy Grice is sorting a load of tickets out, and there's a block of about 200 been or going to be bought. I think we're in the south. I think because there was talk of the north, but I don't think
who's we?
Just all my mates.
200. I'm glad to say that includes me as well, because we've been in touch. I've been in touch. Well,
yeah.
I think it's just told me about this.
Well, it's on a need-to-know basis, John.
That's right.
You're not here anyway.
Where's that mute button?
You're on holiday.
You're not going to start like that crappy corner at Crystal Palace.
Someone said that on the message board, didn't they? Let's have a singers corner.
I don't mind, actually. I don't mind that, as long as it's not like, songs of praise or anything. But I think there has to be
it's organic at Bloomfield Road anyway.
I think there's going to be
don't need
a cracking atmosphere anyway.
Yeah.
Just people are.
I think
people, even the West might sing,
as long as they don't sing. Come on the tune, come on I hate it.
I sound
like a mushroom.
Sound it a bit. Sing it a bit more enthusiastically.
That's how they sing it, though. It's got no power. It's got no. It's got no.
It is going to be a bit weird, because I would imagine that for the first 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, God knows, you're just going to have to sing the old songs, because you can't relate to the players instantly. You don't need to know what.
There's only one. Number 7.
Go on, number 8 down the wing or whatever. It's all right. That's the only player that we know, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a bit weird. But so
where are you going to sit then, Matt? Are you going to sit?
I'll be in
the south.
In the 200.
The south's better.
200 club.
It's better because you can get a drink under the south. Like north was always a nightmare, wasn't it?
It was easier to walk in the west than it was to get served in the north, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But there is a bit of a better concourse at the south.
I mean,
at the moment, quite frankly, we haven't got a clue if there's anybody actually working in the club.
Well, this is it. This is another one of the things that needs sorting out. But we used to have a bookies, didn't we, here, there, and everywhere under the stands. That's probably fallen by the wayside, I would have thought.
There's all this sort of stuff that
might rock up with some bottles and cans, bottles and cans, Jerry. Yeah. So really,
bottles and cans. Sunshine indoors.
I mean, the fact that they turned the Seasiders bar into the club shop, and the hope of renting out the main club shop to Tesco's or whatever, it just begs belief, doesn't it?
Yeah, and again, it's another one of the things that needs sorting out. So
There's a whole list. I mean, crack the list. It must be the length of a bloody bog roll rolled out, mustn't it?
I think the biggest thing, obviously, as well, is they've got to look at all of the finances and understand what's going on there. For when you're talking to prospective buyers and they're saying, well, all these loans that are out there, are they coming back? And if they're not coming back, you'd be thinking, well, that's knocked off the value of the club. That's got to be a priority as well, to untangle all of that and understand what's going on with it.
He's certainly got his work cut out, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Going back to the game, what are we going to be doing before the match? What does that mean?
Oh, you said, like, you've covered that already about just going to the pub and meeting up with mates and what have you.
How will you feel, Nick, walking through the turnstiles and seeing the pitch?
Emotional, I think. I think a lot of the old feelings will come flooding back, and I'll probably have a tear in my eye.
Such a romantic, isn't it?
Matt, how are you?
Yeah, I'll be 10 minutes late because we'll still be at the pub.
Missed two goals.
We'll be 2-0 down.
Everybody know, you see that when we sat in the centre of the West and you'd turn up late and you'd leave early at half time. You turn up late, you go early, you come back from half time late, and then you leave early. No, why you bother? Every week. It's off.
Matt, so same question to you.
Well, I'm sort of doing the same in a way. I mean, I'm sort of looking forward to obviously just going in and feeling that, I don't know, vibe again, I guess, really. You know, the fact I'm seeing a bit of live entertainment that isn't evolving around a bloody park or something like that, you know. It's
it'll be a surreal moment.
It will be, yeah, it will be. But like I say, for me, it's the fact that it would just seeing familiar faces again, getting to see everybody, having the common sort of, you know, reason why we're there and all that sort of stuff, which, you know, is what took us to Bloomfield Road 30 years ago.
That's the thing. It'll probably feel a bit like when you were a kid and it was all new. You know,
if they can put the railings up and I can still squeeze my legs between them on the east paddock, I'll be amazed. Be very happy.
So, if you go back to where are you planning to sit for kind of full time? West.
Well, I suppose it just depends what's out. I mean, the north might be.
Tim comes up with a good.
Yeah. No, safe standing area.
Depends which corporate box Tim puts us in, I suppose. Doesn't it?
We'll be in the podcast box.
That's right.
But I don't know. Maybe back to the west, or we'll just add.
What I'm leading
to
here is if you go into the west, how will it feel sitting around all those kind of people who've been still going?
Well, it's one of those, in it. You know, there's two schools of thoughts. One's like ban them for life. The other is forgive and forget. And ultimately, you know, I think Tim covered this at the BST meet, and we have to all be united, you know, to move the football club forward. And the thing is, you could be sat next to someone who carried on going, and you wouldn't know unless they turn around and say something to you.
They've got a mushroom badge on.
So, you know, you'd like to think that everybody just puts that behind them, and people made the choices. You know, we can look in the mirror and, you know, I think we did the right thing. Other people think they did the right thing by supporting the team. I just think we need to forgive and forget.
Yeah, I mean, I used to
gritted teeth.
I used to sit in the north anyway, and then we moved. We were in the west initially,
kid, didn't you?
And then we went in the north. Yeah, and to be honest, I sort of preferred the north from a bit more atmosphere,
a bit more edgy.
But obviously, you get the better view, quite frankly. And I'm sounding really old here, but you get the better view sat near the halfway line, which is obvious enough. But I do prefer, you know, being in the mix, as it were, with things. It's, you know, it's a bit more passion, a bit more sort of, you know, old school like that, really. So whether it's the north or the south for me, I think that's probably where I'll end up.
Who knows? We might get a safe standing area.
I'll tell you what,
I've put that on my list. I
was watching. I retweeted something tonight, and by the way, because of tonight and everything, it's the first time I've been on Twitter for 4.5 years as well. Really? Pretty much, yeah. So I retweeted something that an Everton fan had been to the Dortmund ground and basically shown how this works, and, you know, just promoting it generally. You know, it is literally the safest, best thing, and it would just be ace to have, like, you know, instead of the yellow wall at Dortmund, you know, the tangerine wall at Bloomfield Road or something, because you can get more people in, you can make it more affordable. And I'm dreaming a bit here, but if you can get 10 quid a head, but you can get twice as many people in on a that whole north stand is all standing.
They could.
Unbelievable.
Do you remember when they were the Safe Standing Roadshow came to town?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
John Darch we went, Bristol.
Yeah, we went on that little demo setup he had, and I'll never forget this. Carl said it will never happen as long as we're involved in this football club. I remember thinking, what a dickish thing to say.
Well,
it's so good.
He said
first of many.
I was listening to his TalkSport interview the other day. Well, that's come back to haunt you, hasn't it? So,
oh God, the fact that Tim's on the board now, and that must. Well, I mean, talk about perfect irony.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the East. I think if the East goes, that's rebuild that as a standing area.
The thing is, it's these sort of things, these decisions ultimately that you feel that you'll have a part to play now. Because you
rather than having some knobhead saying it'll never happen.
Exactly. Either it'll never happen or this is the way we're doing it. You would like to just think there'll be communications two-way now. And whether it be, from the price of a pie and a pint or whatever to anything like that, the cost of a season ticket, so on and so forth, you just hope there's a bit more understanding and appreciation of what fans want, need and want to hear and get involved in, really. So I'll say clean slate all around.
Yep. So we've got about 5 minutes left, so let's start wrapping things up. There was the BST meeting at the Village Hotel. Review of what's said I've put. Has anyone got any thoughts on or key takeaways from that?
I think it's all out there, really. Because that covered it well, and obviously BST themselves had a video out there that's in a couple of segments. So if anybody needs to watch it and hasn't done, then I suspect if you've just gone to BST YouTube meeting from last week or whatever, I'm sure
it's on YouTube somewhere. Funnily, it's on like some woman's craft channel or something. It's not like an official BST.
Is that the lady knocking out those black pillar back scarves really quickly?
Need to get one of them. Right, so I think we wrap up there. Final thing. Matt, you said this was your idea. You were taking the credit for this.
Okay.
BST were asking for volunteers to help the club. You can email to deputychair@blackpoolsportstrust.com if you're able to assist. So I've emailed and I said, yeah, I'll be happy to do anything really, like gardening or anything outside, any sort of techie stuff. Well,
that's it. I mean, you look at the state of the ground again, and it's another thing that's just been left to go to rack and ruin. Yeah. So,
I mean, we see all the away fans that were tweeting pictures of bird shit on seats and just general disrepair and stuff. And like, it's no pride or anything. It's like whatever street we all live on, there's always the shit house in the, or, well, I say always, depends where you live, obviously, but there is generally a grotty house. And this is how the Oystons have obviously looked at it, like just the barest minimal effort at the football club all round. And, so when I got, they were asking for various ideas and, I just had a vision of like, sort of like Nick Knowles and the DIY SOS crew in Tangerine turning up. And I just thought it would just be a nice idea to get everyone straight away involved in something because we all feel passionate about it. And I just thought, even if I just take a yard brush down or like yourself, John, you can, I don't know, knock up the bloody website into a better state or whatever the case may be. And Nick chooses which real ale goes on.
I'll just test it. I'm not sure. I need another.
Which reminds me, Trev's asked me to put through to Tim if he can get some proper premium lager on. So that's
strong
the first
continental lager. That's what it yours.
Well, Bellicon owns a brewery, doesn't he?
Well, that's it, doesn't he? Yeah, exactly. So there's, but it's that sort of stuff that you just want to get involved in it now, and the community word has been used quite a lot, especially by BST over the last 5-6 years or whatever. But this is a real opportunity now to be a bit more hands-on.
There was one thing that struck me when in the back of this, if you go right to the back of South Stand, I think there used to be another row of seats, like right at the back, and they've been ripped out, I think, for some sort of safety reason, and they've just left like 6-inch bolts just sticking up, like all the way across the top of the stand. And I remember seeing little kids playing a game of, like running up and down on the concrete.
Running away from Owen.
On that note. That was Matt.
I'm getting the word.
therapy, wasn't it?
Ollie's already changed the world. Small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
There you go.